might have to start opposing Trump more. I'm really not happy with Trump today. Really not. What he is doing is just beyond reason. Really. What I don't understand why he thinks it's a good strategy to start attacking conservatives. The conservatives, most of them, who got him elected. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We are doing this show 7 to 9 p.m. tonight. But if you miss any of the show, make sure you catch the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. And if I can get Facebook Live up, I will be able to get Facebook Live up. But there is we're going to talk about a lot of different things. In this first hour, we're going to talk about Trump's healthcare, the latest with that. It just keeps making news because Trump, he came out yesterday and he's like, it's going to be easy to have a healthcare deal. We're going to get with the Democrats and we're going to pass a bill or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, why are you so bent on working with socialist Democrats? And why would you want to alienate your own party? This is so frustrating. We now own the House and the Senate and the presidency. We're about to own the Supreme Court. Maybe, possibly. And we still can't get anything done. We still can't get any real conservative legislation passed. There's already talk this week that the Republicans are really going to cave on Trump's budget. Trump's budget, which is really conservative, which borrowed a lot of its budget outline from the Conservative Heritage Foundation, which makes me very happy. But now there's talk that the Republicans are going to start caving on that. And now you have Trump who wants to work with the Democrats on health care. What is going on? Why would you start a war with the conservatives in your own party who got you elected? And then there's been talk for a while, but there's talk now that he's going to support primary opponents against people in this Freedom Caucus. What? This is Tea Party people. This is people like you listening to this show right now. People who supported Trump because you believed he was different, because he was an outsider. And yet now he's trying to make deals with the Democrats. Isn't that what we did not want? Am I the only one who thinks this way? 407-916-5400. You can text to 23680 if you are listening to the live show. Let's go back to right after this healthcare bill was pulled because they knew they couldn't get the votes. And Trump had a press conference. And this is what he said. Play that cut for me, Tom Benson.
But I'll tell you what's going to come out of it is a better bill. I really believe a better bill. Because there were things in this bill I didn't particularly like. And I think it's a better bill. Both parties can get together and do real health care. That's the best thing. Obamacare was rammed down everyone's throat, 100% Democrat. And I think having bipartisan would be a big, big improvement. So, no, I think that this is going to end up being a very good thing.
Okay, so he comes out, and I said this before, he comes out, and it was smart to blame the Democrats in a way for the bill failing. And that's what he did at first. Well, that seems to be gone. It seems like he would much rather blame the Freedom Caucus now than the Democrats. I don't understand this strategy. Is he turning into a Donald Clinton? Clinton would try to, triangulate and try to be bipartisan, but that was only after the Republicans won Congress. We own everything now. There's no reason to go to the Democrats, and frankly, the Democrats don't want you. The Democrats are going to do whatever they can right now to oppose everything you do, Donald Trump, until they own Congress. Now, what worries me is the Democrats are going to take over Congress, and then Trump, because he wants to get something done, because that's who he is, then Trump's going to go to them and pass not a conservative bill at all on healthcare, and it's going to take us one step closer to socialized medicine. I talked about this right away, right after this thing failed. I told everyone, I said, this is extremely concerning to me that he is so bent on working with the Democrats. Is anyone else concerned about it? But you know what's even more beyond reason than that? Than even everything that Trump is saying? Paul Ryan did an interview on Reuters. Well, actually, it was on CBS. I'm sorry, I got the story from Reuters, but it was actually on CBS. And the whole interview is going to be released later this week. But when Paul Ryan seems like the one defending conservatism, when Paul Ryan seems more conservative than Donald Trump, and he's the voice of reason in this, we have a problem. We have a problem. Because Paul Ryan has not been conservative in this issue. All he had to do was look at the latest bill, which is why the Freedom Caucus didn't like it. But Paul Ryan was asked about this in an interview about Trump's strategy and what he wants to do. And I have to agree with Paul Ryan. I didn't think I would actually come out and have to say that this week because I've been disagreeing with him a lot lately. But this is what he said.
Do you think it would have helped if the president were more involved in the policy itself?
Oh, he was deeply involved. That's the thing that I was so pleased and impressed with. He really rolled up his sleeves. So actually, he's up to speed on the issue. He knows the circumstances. What I worry about, Nora, is that if we don't do this, then he'll just go work with Democrats to try and change Obamacare. And that's hardly a conservative thing. This is a can-do president who's a business guy who wants to get things done. And I know that he wants to get things done with the Republican Congress. But if this Republican Congress allows the perfect to be the enemy of the good, I worry we'll push the president into working with Democrats. He's been suggesting that as much.
I mean, have you reached out to the Democrats yet to work on this bill, Pelosi?
No, I'm trying to get this bill passed. Nancy and I see things very, very differently. I don't want
then
government
you guys are not
healthcare.
on the same page. The President of the United States saying he's going to work with Democrats on this.
I know he's been saying that, and I don't want that to happen. You know why? Because I want a patient-centered system. I don't want government running healthcare. The government shouldn't tell you what you must do with your life, with your healthcare. We should give people choices.
So I agree with Paul Ryan. Now, unfortunately, the plan that he came out with and that Trump really pushed didn't really do what he was saying there, which is definitely a problem. But I agree with him. It's not a conservative thing to do right now on this issue to want to go work with Democrats because, and I played the cut of my last show, because Bernie Sanders and the like are now using this failure to really promote the idea of Medicaid for all. That is what they're promoting now. They want to expand Medicaid even more, even though Medicaid has a lot of problems. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of funding problems in Medicaid. There's just way too many people on Medicaid. We want to expand it to even more people. But that's the fastest way to socialize medicine, a public option Medicaid for all plan. And yet Donald Trump is saying, well, we're going to work with the Democrats. We're going to come with a bipartisan bill, and it's going to be a better bill. How? Tell me, Donald Trump, how is it going to be a better bill? And why are you going after the Freedom Caucus in all of this? I don't, you think this is what we should do on health care. Pass the things piece by piece that all the Republicans can support right now. Take Obamacare apart piece by piece. Why do we have to do it all at once? Why do we have to have some kind of big, massive bill that the American people don't support? This thing had like a 17% approval rating. Okay? So maybe instead of blaming the Freedom Caucus, who are with the majority of the American people, Trump says he's for the people, maybe support the Freedom Caucus. I mean, this is what Trump tweeted out a couple days ago. He said the Republican House Freedom Caucus was able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. After so many bad years, they were ready for a win. So he's blaming the House Freedom Caucus again. Then he said a couple days ago, he said the Democrats will make a deal with me on health care as soon as Obamacare folds, which he says won't happen very long. Don't worry, we are in very good shape. No, the Democrats are going to let this fold because they'll just use an excuse to push more socialized medicine. And he's actually been going after specific people from the Freedom Caucus. This is what Trump tweeted out today against the Freedom Caucus. He said the Freedom Caucus will hurt the entire Republican agenda if they don't get on the team and fast. We must fight them and the Dems in 2018. So not only, and these are conservatives, okay, supported by Rand Paul in the Senate, but there are conservatives like Jim Jordan on this, who they had a much better plan on healthcare, which I supported. But not only is Trump saying that, you know, the Freedom Caucus did damage, in his opinion, but he's making a threat here. He is saying we must fight them in 2018. We must fight them in the midterms. You're going to fight against the conservative base that basically got you elected. This is a very big problem. And, you know, I just saw on Fox News earlier that Congressman Amash came out and he says, we don't really appreciate it getting bullied. We're not going to just be on board with this. Donald Trump also tweeted out about an hour ago attacking people of the Freedom Caucus. He says, if Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and others would get on board, we would have both great health care and massive tax cuts and reform. And he's saying, where are they? So because we didn't, well, I'm not a part of the Freedom Caucus, but I supported them because conservatives in the Freedom Caucus did not support a bad bill, and it was just a bad bill. Because they did not support a bad bill, you're blaming them for not getting great health care done. It wasn't great health care. I don't understand the strategy. He's thinking he's going to go work with the Democrats. It's not going to happen. So he's attacking his own party. He's attacking the Democrats. And why?
In his mind, he probably thinks the conservatives are bullying him. And he's going to say, I'll show you who's the bully here.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. And we talked about this off the air earlier. He just doesn't like that he didn't get a win. He's upset at them because they got in the way of him getting an easy win. And, you know, I talked about this. I have a blog on the Beyond Reason blog page. Go to 1025wfla.iheart.com. Click on Good Morning Orlando tab and click on Beyond Reason blog. I talked about how you had so many Republican pundits out there talking about how the Congress and the Freedom Caucus failed Trump. And I'm thinking, I don't care if Trump gets a win or a loss. I don't care about how this looks politically. I care about good policy. And if this was bad policy and bad for the future of healthcare and bad for the future of this country, I just can't support it. So you didn't get a win. So figure out how you can work with the Freedom Caucus. You ran on being a conservative, Donald Trump. You ran on being a conservative. You said to the conservative base that you were conservative, that you were going to drain the swamp, that you were going to do all these things, yet you want to go work with the worst reptiles in the swamp, the Democrats. How is that draining the swamp? I mean, I'm just an outsider. I mean, you want to talk about outsider? I'm a real outsider. I don't have any connections to any of these people, but I'm just looking at this and I don't understand it. The Freedom Caucus are really outsiders when it comes to being against the Republican establishment. Everybody knows that. The establishment doesn't like them. So if you want to drain the swamp, wouldn't you rather work with them? And you're going to need them to pass other things. And bullying them isn't going to work. Trust me. These Freedom Caucus people, they're not going to give in to the bullying. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. Later in the hour, we're going to talk to economist Stephen Moore, I've talked to a bunch of times, and he talks about how he loves Trump's budget. And we're going to talk about what's in Trump's budget. And I love Trump's budget too, but I'm starting to wonder if Trump's even going to support his budget now. Or if he's going to want to work with the Democrats on that, and he's going to cave on a lot of this stuff. There's already talk that the Republican establishment, it seems, they're going to want to cave on a lot of this stuff. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We will be right back.
You want to listen to Beyond Reason Radio live on your smartphone? Download the Beyond Reason Radio app now. Available in the Google Play or Apple App Stores. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is another edition, as it said, of Orlando Smart Talk Radio, where we talk faith, culture, and politics. And we're doing the show till 9 p.m. tonight. If you miss any of the show, though, you can always catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. By the way, in the next hour, I have a great piece on abortion and how calling out people, calling out men, frankly, to be men. I was going to read it in the last show, but I ran out of time. I really want to get to it in this show. And there's some new stuff going on in the whole Tomi Lahren thing. She's a young conservative like myself, younger than me. And some criticism of conservatives for not being pro-choice like her.
She's simply not as attractive as you are, though.
Yes. Really try to sell that one. We'll see if that gets anywhere. By the way, I've been letting know the Blaze, if they want a young, attractive conservative, I'm right here. Why are you laughing in there, Tom Benson? You're not supposed to laugh at that.
I'm laughing with you.
Yeah, I get it. All right, let's take a call here because we've been talking about Trump's whole take on healthcare and how he's now fighting with the Freedom Caucus, and I just don't understand it because the Freedom Caucus had really good points. These Republicans ran on repealing Obamacare for years. They had bills to repeal Obamacare that Obama had on his desk, that Obama vetoed. And now that we have a Republican president, we don't want to pass those same bills? So why'd you do it before? Oh, was it just for show? Oh, gee, I didn't know we were just doing all this for show. Oh, well then, yay. It's just fun and games. People are hurting, though. Their healthcare premiums are going up. There are many problems with the healthcare system. There are real solutions that can fix it, but it's okay. It's just fun and games, just for show. We don't actually want to fix things. We don't actually want to get the government out of your way. Let's take a call here. Johnny in Orlando, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
What's your take on all this?
I just want to make a comment. I'm very much a conservative that happens to be a Republican, and Trump was my third choice. Huckabee was my first. My second was Cruz, and I've ended up voting for Trump. With that being said, I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the next 4 years beyond these, okay? We're going to hear on a daily basis from the liberal media every step of the way, every day, everything that Trump does and everything bad, okay? With that being said, I don't agree with every decision that Trump's made so far. Matter of fact, the Freedom Caucus I support very much.
Okay.
However, I think that we're, as a group of conservatives, we're leading into doing, at the end of the day, when it comes to the next election, we're feeding into putting Democrats back in the House by kind of beating on a daily basis, kind of nitpicking and picking out everything that Trump does or missed up.
Here's the thing, though, and I understand what you're saying. Here's the thing, when it comes to the whole we're nitpicking. This bill, we were not nitpicking on this bill. This bill was bad, and it didn't have those free market solutions, and they had real concerns. So I don't necessarily see that as nitpicking, and Trump's the one who's attacking them now.
My point is this, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I didn't like the bill either. But let me give you the big picture. Glenn Beck is one. There's many more I could talk about, right? Who says he's a conservative. If you listen to his show on a daily basis, or even a little bit, on a daily basis, before he didn't like Trump. I mean, he don't like him now. And on a daily basis, he just picks out everything negative. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm telling you is this: we have a choice. We have a choice. He's accomplished more, in my opinion, of good. Let's talk about that in the short time he's been in office than in 8 years of Barack being in office. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's the bottom line. But we have a choice. Either
he's definitely better than Obama.
And, we either unite and kind of, we're not going to like anything 100% anybody does. And you're right. We need to speak out if we disagree. But I think that we need to be careful not to cross the line and kind of feeding into the feeding frenzy that's constantly on a daily basis that we hear from the left.
Well, and Johnny, here, I actually agree with you. Here's the one issue I have, though. Trump's the one who's crossing the line here. Trump's the one who's attacking the Freedom Caucus.
You're right. When he does cross the line, we should speak up a little bit, but I don't think we should, we should speak up, but I don't think we should belabor the point, talk too much about it.
Well, I mean, in the next segment, I'm going to talk with economist Stephen Moore, who advised Trump during the campaign, and he likes a lot of what Trump's doing and likes the budget, and I love Trump's budget too, so we're going to highlight some of the good things, but I guess the big thing with me is this issue was like a number one issue for me. It was just the number one thing, and it just bothers me that we can't get this done when it was the number one issue for so many people.
I agree with you on that. I think it's an extremely important issue, and you're right. I'm not happy with it. But I do think that it's not over. I do think that he is going to work. He's going to revise. He's going to get better. So this is not the final product. You know what I mean? It's a starting point I don't like, but I don't think that Trump's saying this is the way it is. Take it the high way or the low, or take it or leave it. And that's the way the liberal media makes him out to be. They make him out to be almost like a dictator, to where he says it in his way or no way.
Yeah.
He's not like that.
The left, and thank you for your call, John. I appreciate it. The left has gone nuts when it comes to Trump. There's no doubt about that. The left has just gone insane when it comes to dealing with Trump, making him out to be a dictator, which is just, he's no more of a dictator than Obama was. So I can't even, give me a break on that stuff. It's just frustrating as a conservative, because this is the time. This was the opportunity to get conservative things done, and especially on healthcare. This might be our only opportunity. Because if the Democrats start winning in Congress and we get a Medicaid for all plan, that's it. You're on socialized medicine in this country for a long time. And I don't want to see that, because I care about the future of the country. All right, after the break, we're going to talk to economist Stephen Moore on Trump's budget, and we have a lot more to get to. We have a whole another hour and a half to get to on the show. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio right here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. We are on Facebook Live as well. If you go to the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page, like us on Beyond Reason Radio, you can see me. And we're bringing on economist Stephen Moore, I've talked to a couple times, from Freedom Works. He was also an advisor to Trump during the campaign. And he's been out there saying that he really likes Trump's budget plan. And I like it too, so I wanted to get his take on it and exactly what he really likes about it. But Stephen, how are you this evening?
Hi, good evening. Great to be with you.
Yes. So you say this budget is like a conservative dream, and I know he borrowed a lot of the ideas from the Heritage Foundation. Tell us why you like this budget so much.
Well, we have a fat, flabby government that is way too large, spends too much, is inefficient, is duplicative, is extremely wasteful in terms of the way they spend money. We wasted $160 billion last year on fraudulent payments and Medicaid and Social Security and food stamps, and these are just errors that were made where we send checks to people who weren't eligible for them. I mean, can you imagine a private company doing that? So we got to get our government under control. There are literally hundreds of programs that are so obsolete that have existed for 100 years, and we just keep spending money on them because that's what we do. We keep spending money, and I think most people listening to this show know that about 30 to 35 cents of every dollar the government spends is wasted. And why not? Donald Trump is saying, you know what? We're going to get rid of the things that don't work. We'll spend more money on the things that are a priority, but that's what every business does. That's what every household does. And it's about time we started doing something about this massive national debt.
So what's your take when you hear like leftists say this is the worst, most outrageous budget in American history? It's going to kill the planet, and people are going to starve or something. I mean, what do you tell the left? I mean, if you can tell them anything, they're not going to listen. But how do you respond to accusations like that?
Well, I've been on a lot of radio and TV interviews debating liberals, and they keep saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of the world. And I say, no, look. First of all, just because the government doesn't do it, doesn't mean it doesn't get done. We have, when it comes to some of these, Meals on Wheels or, after-school programs. I mean, my goodness, I participate in the Meals on Wheels program. I make sandwiches. I help deliver the food. You don't need government to do that.
Sometimes if the government doesn't do it, it gets done better.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the point that I just made. And a lot of these programs, so, we spend $100 billion a year on. Why are we giving money to corporations? It's unbelievable the way we spend money in this town. I mean, there are 42 different nutrition programs, 61 different special education programs. There are something like over 30 job training programs. I mean, the government doesn't even, one hand of the government doesn't even know what the other hand of the government is doing. It's just so big and bureaucratic. When I first came to Washington back in the early 1980s, we were spending less than $1 trillion. Now we're spending $4 trillion. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, you know, what's funny is I point out as well, they say, oh, my gosh, these spending cuts are going to kill us. But actually, Obama's last budget plan was the same amount of spending that Trump is proposing to spend now, which is just now Trump's priorities are better, of course, than Obama's were. But it's just funny how they act like the sky is falling.
There's another reason for that, is they use this funny math where, you know, every year the budget has gone up, with a couple of exceptions. Almost every year the budget goes up and up and up, usually by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And yet every year they say, oh my gosh, these budget cuts. Well, how can there be budget cuts when the government is growing? It's because they have this phony concept called current services baseline. And what that means is if the government doesn't spend as much as it planned to spend, then it's a cut.
Yeah. I mean, all we do is cut the rate of increase.
My wife came home the other day, and there were 2 dresses on the bed. She said, look, honey, I saved you $150. What? There's 2 dresses on. I said, well, they're on sale, you know, so I saved you $150. Well, I don't know if I feel $150 richer because you spent $200.
Exactly.
They're accounting.
You know, I always tell people that, you know, balancing the budget is actually very easy. All you have to do is get rid of the rate of increase, and it balances in what, like 5 years? So we can't even do that.
Well, you can't do that. And, you know, the other thing you have to do is grow the economy. You got to get the revenues up, and you got to, you know, that's why this tax cut that Trump is talking about is really important, because we got to get, you know, businesses moving back to America, not out of America. That's a big priority as well. You got to grow the private sector and shrink the government. And, you know, remember what Donald Trump's final argument was in the last week of the election. You remember, it was drain the swamp, right? And
yes.
You know, of course, when you try to drain the swamp, the creatures in the swamp aren't going to be too happy, and that's why you're hearing all these howls of protest in Washington.
The creatures, the reptiles of the swamp are rising up out of the mud. Oh, that's what an image that is.
I've never seen anything like this. They hate Trump. I mean, that's the funny thing is, I mean, everybody in Washington hates Trump. You know that, because this guy is shaking things up. He's rattling the cages, and that's exactly why Donald Trump got elected, because he promised he would do that.
Yeah, so you co-authored a really fantastic book, I have to say, called Fueling Freedom. And the reason I bring that up is because one of the biggest complaints from the left is that this cuts the EPA and it's going to destroy the planet and all that stuff. And you point out how, you know, a lot of that stuff is nonsense in your book. But, I mean, how do you react when they say stuff like this is going to destroy the planet, you know, something like that?
Well, look, I mean, we all want a clean environment. We want safe drinking water and clean air and open spaces and parks. And now we've continued to fund the EPA, for goodness sakes. There's some cutbacks because it grew so much under Obama. But that the left is now declaring that carbon dioxide is a pollution, and carbon dioxide is not a pollution. You don't get sick from carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what makes life on Earth possible.
Exactly. I think we're made of carbon, aren't we?
Exactly, and every time we breathe out carbon dioxide. They want to kill us all so we don't heat up the planet. I mean, it's nuts. And so what I favor is putting Americans back into their jobs. And, the left wants to kill all the coal jobs. Then they want to go after the oil and gas industry, which employs 10 million people. This is really an effort to try to deindustrialize America. And, a lot of people don't understand that, because we have had good laws with respect to, safe water and air, the amount of emissions from our coal and other power plants have been reduced 50, 60, 70, 80% today. I mean, the cities I'm old enough to remember growing up outside of Gary, Indiana, when it was just the smell and the odor and the black cloud over that city. That's all been cleaned up. I mean, Pittsburgh, can you imagine what Pittsburgh was like 100 years ago?
And most of that was cleaned up before the EPA even existed. Isn't that right? Like a lot of it?
In fact, the biggest rate of reduction in the pollutions was actually before the EPA was created and before the Clean Air Act was created. Now, the Clean Air Act had some positive features to it. But American people want jobs back, and the left is basically saying, they're trying to deindustrialize America. They want us to go back to the Stone Age, when we don't have energy. And by the way, if you want to see liberals complain, these young people, I say, oh, it's so wonderful to go green. I say, wait a minute. Wait until you stick your recharger for your, Game Boy or your cell phone or your, computer games. And when electricity doesn't come out of that socket, you're not going to be too happy. And, we get most of our electricity from coal and natural gas. And you start fooling with that, you're not going to have anything coming out of the wall.
I mean, when I go into Starbucks, because the left loves Starbucks, when I go in there, it's pretty cold. I guess the air conditioner is pretty low. I can't imagine the left these liberals being too happy when they go to get their fancy macchiatos and it's like 90 degrees in Starbucks. Then they'll complain.
Exactly.
Now, another great point you made in that book actually was that a lot of what the left wants to do in green energy actually negatively hurts the planet because the footprint that those things would have to create a lot of this green energy would be detrimental to the planet and causes a lot of maybe even more problems than the energy we already have. Isn't that right?
That's exactly right. And, look, it's not like, in fact, it's funny. The other day I was on CNN and I was having this debate with a liberal commentator. And, I said, look, let's just get rid of all these subsidies for green energy and get rid of all the subsidies for energy. Let's let the market work and pick the best form of energy that can provide a reliable and affordable form of electricity. And this gentleman said, no, we have to, subsidize the green energy because it's an infant industry. And I laughed and I said to this gentleman, I said, infant industry? There have been windmills for 500 years. They use windmills in the Middle Ages. How is this an infant industry? And he said, well, these are wind turbines. They're different from windmills. And I'm like, well, come on. What are you talking about? It's just a different.
I mean, yeah, definitely the same concept. So, and the other point I wanted to ask you about as well is, do you think, and I mean, this is Trump's proposal, but does this actually have a chance of getting passed in Congress, this budget?
It's tough. It's very tough. I mean, the Congress likes to play Santa Claus. They love to pass out special favors. And so, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's difficult to get the cuts done. And hopefully Trump is putting out a marker and saying, if you guys are serious about doing something about this budget deficit and the massive borrowing we're doing of $1 trillion a year, we better start mounting our P's and Q's. But I don't know. We'll see how many of these suggestions make it through Congress, because as you know, Congress is the ones who appropriates the money.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm already hearing talks that the Republicans in Congress, the establishment, wants to cave on funding for Planned Parenthood and cave on a lot of other stuff in this budget. And I don't understand, how they expect to get reelected if they do stuff like that.
Well, I'll give you another example. They're now talking about preserving the money for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and National Public Radio. So I sometimes listen to National Public Radio, but you know what? The people who listen to it are the ones who should pay for it. Why should taxpayers pay for this stuff? And by the way, the average income of the person who listens to NPR is probably $200,000 a year. You think they can't afford to pay for it?
It's amazing too. Like, I read a book recently by Juan Williams, who used to work for NPR, and he's a big liberal, but he even says in the book that they should defund NPR, that there's no reason for the government to fund it. If he says it, it's not that unreasonable of an approach. Before I let you go, I have to ask, what is your whole take on this healthcare debate? Do you have a take on what's going on with all this? Because Trump's going after the Freedom Caucus, which I really don't understand. And wanting to work with Democrats seems like a disaster to me.
I think the Republicans have to come together here, and they have to make an agreement. That's the way politics works. I don't know if I would have brought down that bill, that the Ryan bill, but now we are where we're at, and the way to get it. I think Donald Trump made a big mistake, and I worked for Donald Trump on the campaign, and I admire him. But you don't. If you want to win over people to your side, you don't attack them. One of the members said today, if you're going to be a bully, I'm not going to go along with you. So I think he has to, bring this together. We're going to get, and I'm going to make a prediction on your show that within 6 months we're going to get Obamacare repealed.
Really?
Come out of the House and Senate. Yeah, because it has to happen. I mean, this was the central promise the Republicans have made for 8 years. Give us the power and we'll get rid of this terrible law. And now they've got the power and they don't want to do it.
Well, I know they wanted to do it when Obama was in office. They even passed bills to do it, and now they're afraid to. It really makes no sense. I've been saying for a while, and I'm curious what your take might be on this. I've been saying, why don't the Republicans get together and just do this piecemeal, piece by piece? Because there's some things that all the Republicans agree on to get rid of, like the employer mandate, the individual mandate, competing across state lines. Why not do it piece by piece instead of one just giant bill so we can at least get some of this stuff, out of the way?
Yeah. Or why not just pass an outright repeal of the law and make it effective, say, January 1, 2019, and that gives us a couple of years to figure out how we're going to replace it. But this law is a killer. I mean, I just got back from Arizona where the premiums are doubling. That means people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars more
not only
for
that,
insurance.
but the deductibles. It's not even worth it.
You're paying more for. What a deal.
yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, economist Stephen Moore with Freedom Works. I always enjoy talking to you, and I always enjoy reading your stuff as well. If people want to know more about you, what's a website that you would like them to reach out to find?
Go to freedomworks.org, and you can get the latest on the health care bill and the budget and the tax bill and all the stuff that we've been discussing today.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone out there to read the book that he co-authored called Fueling Freedom. I mean, just a fantastic book, and that's available on Amazon and everything, right?
It is. So thank you very much for the praise, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen Moore with Freedom Works. Very interesting conversation with him. He's even not too happy with what Trump's doing with the Freedom Caucus, but he made a prediction. He said he made a prediction on this show that he thinks Obamacare will be repealed within the next 6 months. I am not as optimistic as him. I'm not gonna lie. I am not nearly as optimistic as him, but we'll see. All right, this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, and we will be right back.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
Yes, welcome back to another edition of Your Voice of Reason in a world that is beyond reason. Beyond Reason Radio, where we talk faith, culture, and politics. We're going to get into some cultural stuff in the next hour, some abortion stuff I didn't get a chance to get to in the last show, so I definitely want to get to it in this show. We just talked with economist Stephen Moore on Trump's budget. And speaking of the Trump administration and the left's reaction to Trump, I am so tired of the race card. It doesn't even make me angry anymore because it's just so ridiculous. It's just so dumb. And the latest example is Sean Spicer, Trump's press secretary, had an exchange with someone who obviously doesn't like Trump, and they had an exchange, and he basically was telling her, you're wrong and all this stuff. And, of course, this reporter's black, so that must mean he's racist. Of course. So, but here's the exchange.
Hold on. But April, hold on. You, it seems like you're hell-bent on trying to make sure that whatever image you want to tell about this White House stays, because at the end of the day, let me answer. Okay, but you know what? You're asking me a question, and I'm going to answer it, which is the president. I'm sorry. Please stop shaking your head again. But at some point, the reality is that this president continues to reach out to individuals who've supported him, who didn't support him, Republicans, Democrats.
So, okay, obviously it was a heated exchange. This happens. It's called politics. But then there was a whole CNN panel on Don Lemon's show talking about this. And what they said was just, beyond reason. Here's the exchange.
April Ryan's only crime today, if you will, was being a black woman at work. And Sean Spicer could not handle that.
Give me a break. That's absurd.
You know what?
That's
you guys are delusional.
Paris, why don't you believe that?
Delusional if you don't think that's a problem.
That's just,
this is the same person. Ben, I'm not done. I'm just getting started.
You're never done.
This, that's fine. Neither are you, buddy. Here's the issue. April Ryan is the same person who Donald Trump said to her, well, why don't you set up this meeting with the CBC? Those are your friends, right? They have an issue. Their agenda is with April Ryan, the fact that she is a credible, notable journalist in the black community. Her only angle is ensuring that this particular White House and this administration and the policies that they push forth are reported in a fair way to our community.
So I don't know how to react to these people sometimes. So she says the only crime she did was showing up to work being a black woman. It's just, I can't take it. It was just an exchange, a disagreement. It happens. Who cares the color of their skin? But you know what was really funny about that whole CNN exchange? You couldn't see it. But on the video, one of the guys who disagreed with her, he was black. So she started saying that stuff, and the black guy was like, this is ridiculous. Even he is saying it's ridiculous because it is ridiculous. Not everything is about race. Us conservatives and Republicans really don't care about the color of your skin. We don't. It was a disagreement. But what's funny is audio here I have of different times when Obama and his administration had heated exchanges with reporters. I guess they were racist. Here it is.
I got to give you credit, Major, for how you craft those questions. For the notion that I'm content as I celebrate with American citizens languishing in Iranian jails? Major, that's nonsense. And you should know better. But I appreciate you shouting out a question, since I'm sure there are a lot of other colleagues of yours who would want to do the same. Let me finish my answers next time we're doing the interview. All right.
I'm not going to telegraph changes in the days and weeks ahead.
You've been saying
one
that
way or the other
for a couple of years now.
We have a range of options at our disposal, Brad. I'm not going to get into decisions that haven't yet been made.
And
you can shake your head in disgust about the answer all you want.
It's too late for that. You have no time left.
You might feel that,
I'm not going to telegraph something.
You and the Associated Press might feel that it's too late. The Secretary of State, John Kerry, does not feel that it's too late to continue to try to find a political solution to this conflict.
Did he not just do the same thing that Sean Spicer did and say almost the exact same, I think it was the exact same words. You could shake your head. Don't shake your head. Was he called a racist? This is so ridiculous. I mean, you know what's really funny about this, in my opinion, is this last election proved that this identity politics stuff doesn't work. It doesn't always work. The Democrats are so dependent on that narrative, and they pushed that narrative harder than ever against Trump. Did they not? They pushed that narrative harder than ever against Trump, and Trump still won. Still won. So the Democrats are than the left. They're so dependent on this whole identity politics, race narrative. And it's not going to work because I keep telling people it's not about Trump the person. They're not a bunch of racists. People are attracted to and I know there's polls say, his approval rating's really low. I don't know how his approval rating can be that low when he was just elected. So I'm starting to become very skeptical of some of these polls. I'm usually not that guy. But some of that doesn't make any sense to me, how he can have a 37% approval rating when he just won the presidency like a couple months ago. All those people can't just all of a sudden hate him. But he won because of his message. Now, whether he was telling the truth on that message, sometimes I wonder because what he's doing with healthcare is a disaster. But it was the overall idea of him and the message. And the Democrats need to come up with a message beyond identity politics if they think they're going to win. All right, it has been a fast hour of Beyond Reason Radio. We have one more hour to go. I have a lot to get to. We're going to talk abortion and so much more, so you want to stay tuned. It's Beyond Reason Radio on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, and catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. And, of course, we will be right back. So I am about to read one of the best posts, one of the best articles, opinion articles I have ever read. It is just fantastic. I'm just going to have to read mostly the whole thing because it's just great. And it's on abortion, and it's basically telling men to man up, which they need to do. So this is Beyond Reason Radio, another hour of Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. You can send me a friend request on Facebook if you'd like, and I will accept it. Or just like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. We're on Facebook Live as they're on there as well. I also posted the video of my interview with Stephen Moore, the economist, on the Facebook page as well. I'm also on Twitter at Beyond Reason R, so plenty of ways to get in touch with me. Talked a lot of politics in the last hour, but this is a show where we talk faith and culture as well as politics. And I want to talk about both of those things this hour because I think they're very important. And, you know, a lot of times people are afraid to talk about this stuff, but I think it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed, and it's very important. If you have any comments and you're listening to the live show, a lot of people listen to the podcasts. But if you're listening to the live show, you can call 407-916-5400, or you can text to 23680. And by the way, I didn't introduce him earlier, but we have Mr. Tom Benson, who is producing tonight. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing fine, and this is my first maiden voyage in the new studios.
Yes.
Which are really swanky. As a matter of fact,
They are.
I think we should be paying the company to work here. Wait a minute.
No, don't give them
don't
any
say
ideas.
that too loud.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
about to say.
I'm sorry.
I practically am at the time, but we'll move on from that. But yes, so I want to read. This piece is just so fantastic. I really should reach out to who wrote this and talk to her. It's I found it on pjmedia.com, and it's by Megan Fox, and she talks about something in this whole abortion debate that I hear a lot. But here's the title of the article, which is great. You're gonna want to stay with me to read to hear all of this. This is great. The title goes, "How would you respond to this 30-year-old man-child who wants his girlfriend to abort?" Calls him a man-child. Okay, I love that already. Just the way this starts is so funny. She goes, "I saw your self-indulgent post on Reddit where you opened up and shared your innermost feelings about the time you got your girlfriend pregnant when you didn't mean to, and now you're just wrecked." This is where it gets good. She goes, "Well, sweetheart, sex makes babies." Yes, it does. "You didn't wrap it up or wait for the perfect mate, and now you're fathering a child with a near stranger you met 6 months ago. It's not ideal, but it's understandable that you're worried. But here's the thing. You're not special. You weren't going to be the next Bill Gates. You don't have a right to an unencumbered life free from consequences. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. You are going to love your baby. And God willing, you are going to feel real guilt about wanting your girlfriend to kill it." So right. Yes, I love it. She's like, sex makes babies. This is why I get the whole thing with, this is why I don't understand. They act like the women are victims. Now, sometimes they are in terms of rape or incest, stuff like that. Yes, then they are a victim. But in most of these cases, the couple, they're not victims. They chose to have sex. It is a choice. If you don't want to have babies, wait till marriage to have sex. There's a reason why Christians say you should probably do that. She continues on here. "I know you are a victim of your culture that told you it's okay for a 30-year-old man to behave like a 15-year-old. Avoiding responsibility and indulging yourself on Starbucks, free sex, and designer eyewear for all of your adult life instead of doing your duty as a man and making sure the species lives on." That's fantastic. "You weren't told that it is your duty to make sure the species is protected and sheltered within an intact family with you at its head, leading and guiding and rearing and loving. You were told that you could wait for as long as you wanted. That children are something to be planned and brought into the world only when you are exactly in the right spot in life and you feel it's time for the baby fairy to plop your progeny into your lap." The baby fairy. "But science is against you. Your 25-year-old girlfriend's eggs are dying every day. Her refusal to abort could be the result of her inner knowledge that she doesn't have much baby-making time left." Or biology. This could be her only shot. You're not getting any younger either, and contrary to popular thought, you probably already peaked. Your sexual currency is lowering by the year. You're 30. 30 is middle-aged. Oh, no, I don't want to hear that.
Oh, boy.
I turn 31 next month. Oh, jeez.
I thought 50 was the new middle age.
Oh, jeez. I don't like this article anymore. I changed my mind. Your sexual currency is lowering by the year. You're middle-aged. You know that business you wanted to start? You should have done that already. Not that you still can't, but what the heck are you waiting for? You're very concerned that this baby is going to bankrupt you. Do not believe it. The first 4 years of your baby's life are pretty inexpensive. First of all, encourage breastfeeding. Formula is ridiculous. I don't know about that. I guess breastfeeding's better. Your girlfriend, who you should make your wife as soon as possible, should be a no-brainer, can feed that baby for free for the first year of its life. Well, that's interesting. After that, toddlers barely eat anything. She says, mine eat crayons, cardboard, and pretzels. You're shaking your head and you're nodding in there of approval. I guess you've had kids, Tom Benson, and know exactly what that means. He says he's cheap. She says they don't really start eating you out of the house and home until they're on a football team of some sort. Further cloth diapering is back. You can get them on eBay for a song. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I want to bring back cloth diapering, but okay. Then there will be bringing boxes of baby clothes, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to skip ahead here because she just talks about better ways of raising a baby, but I want to get more to the point of abortion. She says there is a vicious falsehood infecting our vernacular that says babies ruin your life. Nothing could be further from the truth. Babies are the reason you exist. It is your most basic purpose in life. Procreate. All other existential BS is just that. What makes you happy? What is the meaning of life? Is God dead? You're about to find out the answers to those questions in a solid and life-changing way, and it's all good. Now, for those who are just joining me, I'm reading an article by Megan Fox, who's basically writing this article to man-child who want to make their girlfriends abort the babies because they had unprotected sex and didn't realize, sex makes babies. Says, you're about to find out the answers to those questions in a solid and life-changing way, and it's all good, I promise. I'm actually a little excited for you because you have no idea how great your life is about to become. You're like a guy in a blindfold who thinks he's in a snake pit, terrified to see monsters around him, but not realizing he's actually standing in front of unimaginable treasures. Now, this part I like. I love this part. It says, you wanted to travel Europe? Well, it's crawling with terrorists now. So don't be stupid and pretentious. Go to Epcot instead like everyone else. We were in Orlando. I live in Orlando. So, yes, Epcot's right around the corner. Go to Epcot instead. You can see 9 or 10 countries in an afternoon and not get sold into slavery. It's fabulous. And make sure to have the margaritas in Mexico. They are muy bien and Montezuma's revenge free. But if Europe, the real one, is really something you have to do, it can be done. Go while the baby can still share a plane seat. You don't pay extra. Babies love riding in backpacks and hiking outside. No, I like the Epcot thing better. I love that. They're full of terrorists now. Europe's full of terrorists now, so just go to Epcot. It's much better. In your post, you keep saying you are young and free, and that's what's hanging you up, but you're not young. 30 is not young. I don't like this article anymore. You only think it is because Barack Obama made a law that said you can stay on your parents' health insurance until you were 27. So 27 became the new 18. But 30 is not young, sir. By 30, humanity expects you to be adulting all the time. Oh, man, I have to adult now? Oh. You're supposed to be financially stable, responsible, dependable, and someone's dad. You're not supposed to be wandering from bar to bar in Europe. You missed that window. That was supposed to be your year off after college, not the year after your midlife crisis. Well, the one point I have to make about that is our generation isn't making any money anymore, so I doubt we could afford to take a year off and go to Europe, but that's a whole other issue. She continues on here. It says, you only get one life. Why not be selfish with it, you asked. What if I told you that you don't have 100 years, but that you have eternity? This is a very good point, actually, she's bringing up here. And the way you behave now during this life is going to affect your afterlife. You might not believe it, but you just stop to ask yourself, what if that's true? Do I want to stand in front of God and say, well, I only had one life, so I thought I'd be selfish? One doesn't have to believe in God to know that selfishness isn't the path to a happy life. Or do you really want your tombstone to read, he was selfish and pleased himself all the time? Can you imagine that? That's his tombstone. He was selfish and pleased himself all the time. I can't think of anything worse, she continues. She says, fathers don't get enough praise in our culture. Amen to that. And I get the impression you are feeling the weight of that. Instead of fatherhood exciting you as it would have a century ago in any culture, today you feel overwhelmed and scared. But this is your birthright. This is your moment. Let me tell you how important you are. You are the glue that holds all of us together. You are the lovers of women who adore you, the protectors of the weakest and littlest among us, and the leaders of our nations and communities. I bet a lot of feminists hated this article. Without you, our world would fall apart. It's not an easy job. You are like Atlas holding us all up. You are vital, important, capable, and undefeated. Though forces are trying their hardest to convince you, you are disposable. And your children are arrows in your quiver. They make you stronger. They make you stronger, not weaker. It's unfortunate that at 30, you're still a boy, but it's not too late. Refuse to be a boy any longer. It's time to put aside childish things and take your rightful place in this world. Be a man. Couldn't agree with that more. I love this article because, frankly, I know a lot of so-called boys around my age who aren't men, who don't know what it takes to be a man, who thinks being a man is going out and having a few drinks every night and partying, at 30, by the way, and being rebellious. No, that's not being a man. Being a man is taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your responsibilities. It's not being selfish, and because you might not get to travel Europe, killing the baby inside your girlfriend's womb. And by the way, how about you just wait to have sex until your marriage? Be a man and ask her to marry you. Is that too much to say? Tom Benson, you look like you have a comment.
Well, I do.
Well, go ahead.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that was written by
Megan Fox,
the actress?
No.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Well, that's why I was confused.
No. She's a writer for PJ Media. No, it's not the actress Megan Fox. I guarantee you she could not even understand half the words in this blog, not less write them. Was that it? That was your only concern?
That was it.
All right, yeah, I guess I can understand that. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I want to talk more about the abortion thing because there was a conservative on the Blaze who came out as pro-choice. Now she's getting kicked off the Blaze. Tomi Lahren had some comments, and then there's an article kind of reacting to that whole situation, which just is beyond reason, and we'll talk about that. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com, the place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We've been on since 7 p.m., and if you've missed any of the show so far, you can catch the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. You can get it on iHeartRadio, on the TuneIn Radio app, or just download the Beyond Reason Radio app and listen to it there as well. In the first hour, we talked a lot of politics. In this hour, we were talking a lot about culture, and specifically abortion. And I read a great piece in the first segment telling men to man up, to stop telling their girlfriends to kill their babies in the womb, and, man up, be a father, take care of your life, be responsible. I know that's not the manly thing to do anymore, but maybe that's what you should do. Well, on that whole subject, I have to get into I haven't talked about this too much. I posted stuff on Facebook about it. I haven't talked about it too much, but I wanted to address it now. It happened a couple weeks ago. The Blaze has a young, I guess she was a conservative, not conservative on this issue, but a young conservative who really gets popular on social media, and she had been making the rounds on regular mainstream media outlets trying to promote her show. Tomi Lahren. She's a very good-looking blonde girl who the Blaze used to promote a lot. She's young. I think she's 24, 25. So younger than me. So, at first, I was happy to see her out there. I like to see young conservatives out there. Even though the last article said 30 isn't young anymore, I'm a young conservative who's trying to get out there as well. But I didn't always agree with everything she said. She was way too pro-Trump. I voted for Trump, but there were some times I was like, I don't know. But she came out, and I'm sure you've all heard this, but we'll play it again here. She came out on The View, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and talked about how all of a sudden she's pro-choice. This is the conversation they had on The View. Go ahead and play that for me, Tom.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns, and you can stay out of my body as well. So I think it's...
Now, I don't know what a constitutional is, but okay. So she got a lot of flack from conservatives because, my biggest problem with that is there was audio of her out there 2 months ago saying abortion's murder, and basically she was really against it. If you believe abortion's murder, I don't think you can be pro-choice and say, well, the government needs to stay out of my body. So she was kind of hypocritical on some of that, which made her seem like an opportunist. She might have already been on her way out on the Blaze, and maybe he's trying to make nice with some of the more other liberal news outlets. I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know people at the Blaze. The Blaze is apparent. They suspended her, and apparently she's gone for good. And a little advice to the Blaze: I would come out and reveal why you're doing this, because right now it just makes you look like you're doing this because you disagree with her point of view. And that I would not support the Blaze doing that. Now, Glenn Beck came out and said that's not, originally he said, we're not talking about this, but I would not fire someone based on their point of view.
As in many cases, there's probably more to the story than that is known.
Oh, yeah, and I think there is. And there were some reports out there that she had been kind of hard to work with, and there was they started to have problems with her for a while. But, the Blaze has been very silent practically on all this. And it just doesn't make them look good. Come out and at least have a statement, a 2-word statement saying, that she's been a problem for a long time and this is not the way we did it. But this kind of just makes it seem like the Blaze is getting rid of her for those comments. So just a little bit of a free advice for them. I love the Blaze. I love the Blaze Radio. I love the website. Glenn Beck's on our station. I love them. So I just kind of wish they would bring it up. Glenn Beck won't talk about it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with this, but I'm going to say something that will probably rub some people the wrong way. I think she was using her position as the Blaze as a stepping stone to bigger, better things.
Probably.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, she was making the rounds in a lot of places.
Sure.
Fox News needs people. They might pick her up. Who knows? But as long as she's not just an opportunist, but actually believes what she's saying, but when she goes flip-flops on that issue, there's something with that. But the reason I brought this up is there's an article here on CNN, an opinion piece by Jill Filipovic. And what she says is really beyond reason. She's basically defending Tomi Lahren a little bit. She says, we all know why the right is angry at Tomi Lahren. And she's kind of saying we know why they're really angry at Tomi Lahren. And her reason is just dumb. She starts here, conservative darling turned pariah Tomi Lahren is getting a crash course on what the right thinks of women. She's trying to make this a women's issue, which is just stupid. Lahren, a 24-year-old known for her video monologues delivered in a brash, self-aggrandizing tone. Yeah, she always did seem angry. Like all of her videos, she was like, I like it, Tommy, but stop yelling at me. You're always yelling at me. But she's young, blonde, opinionated, and conservative, and unafraid to use sex appeal as a cudgel. What's a cudgel? I really should know what that word is. It seems like feminists are all about freedom of expression so long as the females are overweight or transgender, she says in a video, which is interesting. I kind of agree with that. Being a young, attractive, conservative woman also gave her cover to make the kind of startlingly cruel comments that would have sunk other careers, suggesting, for example, the Syrian refugees fleeing for their lives were cowards who wouldn't stay to defend their country. Yeah, I mean, I understand both sides on that issue. But she goes, but now, after a meteoric rise, Laren has crashed to earth. She was suspended from the conservative website The Blaze, which features her videos, according to a report by New York Post, which I just said. And it came after this whole issue, which I just talked about. But then this article says this. Jill says this in this article, which is just crazy. She goes, Laren apparently didn't get the memo that the American right is happy with sexy women as long as those women appear sexy to appeal to men. Women who have the nerve to think they have their right to their own sexual and reproductive choices, well, they are not so welcome in the GOP. So this is so dumb. I hate this argument. And I actually wrote a blog about this a couple weeks ago, not about Tomi Lahren, but about this issue on women's rights and which side really hates women. But what she's basically saying here is that the real reason why they don't like, the right doesn't like Tomi Lahren anymore is because, well, because men don't like her because of her abortion issue, and men don't want women to speak up about their, quote, reproductive choices. They try over and over again to make abortion an issue of men persecuting women. The stats don't back that up. The fact is, most conservatives I talked to who were upset at what Tomi Lahren said were women. They were not men. They were women who brought that up. Women were upset at what she said. In fact, if there are any women out there listening to the live show, call me, 407-916-5400. What do you think of people on the left, feminists on the left, saying abortion's just a men's issue, and it's just white men mad at Tomi Lahren because she's pro-choice and she cares about our, quote, reproductive rights? That it's really just a men's issue, that all women are basically pro-choice. Any women out there disagree with that? 407-916-5400, text to 23680. I'm going to give you some stats on that, which kind of refute that whole argument. We're going to talk about this more. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, and we'll be right back.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
Yes, welcome back to the show, everyone. We've been talking about culture and faith this hour, because really abortion and men needing to man up is an issue on both of those fronts. And I was reading a piece from CNN.com, opinion piece by Jill Filipovic, who says the only reason the right doesn't like Tomi Lahren now is because the right is full of men who don't want to give women the right to choose and make their own reproductive choices. And this is something the Democrats have been doing for a while. They just assume that all women support abortion, that it's a women's issue, and that it's men who are against abortion. And they try to do this to get the women vote, and they think that's what they have to do. Well, the stats don't back that up. And I always tell people, anytime I bring up abortion issues and issues like it, I get more women who are against abortion than men. Most men are afraid to talk about it, it seems like. You know, it's always women who are strong opponents of it because most of them are mothers who have had children and can't imagine killing that child in the womb. So it's part of their nature. So this whole idea that it's just a men versus women issue, it's clever by the left, but it's not true. And here's the stats that back me up, okay? According to a 2016 Pew poll, it does show that the majority of women believe abortion should be legal in most cases. Not all cases, but most cases. Here's the thing, though. That same poll shows that it's the exact same stats for men. So 57% of men also believe it should be legal in most cases. So it's exactly the same for women and men who believe abortion should be legal. So it's not a women's men issue there. But check this out. According to the poll, the amount of people who say that abortion should be illegal, it actually shows by 1% that more women think abortion should be illegal than men. 40%, according to the poll, and this is probably illegal in all cases. I bet you if you change the stats a little bit, it would be even higher. But 40% of women think abortion should be illegal. 39% of men think abortion should be illegal. That means there are more women than men in that group of people who think that abortion should be illegal. That tells you right there that this is not a men versus women issue. And when you think about it, it really makes sense. Why would we expect, because just like in the last article I read at the top of the show, it was about a man who wants to kind of talk his girlfriend into getting an abortion. A lot of times it's the man who wants the woman to have an abortion, not the woman, because the woman gets a connection to that baby in the womb. It's just common sense and it's science. So when you read this nonsense by Jill Filipovic saying, well, men are just a bunch of sexists and they want a girl like Tommy Lee for her sex appeal, but they don't want her to make her own choices, it's beyond reason. It's beyond reason. And trust me, I talked to plenty of conservative women who were really not happy with what Tommy Lauren was saying. All right, I want to move on to a different topic here as well. I found this from CBSNews.com. And it's another topic kind of dealing with the culture. And by the way, in the last segment of the show, we are going to do things that make Yaffee laughy. That's got to be everyone's favorite segment now. So we're going to do things that make Yaffee laughy. And we will do that. So don't worry, we'll lighten the show up at the end. But I found an article here that really got me thinking about some things. It said it's from Money Watch, actually, CBS Money Watch. It says the new face of suburbia, economic woes and early death. And what it's talking about is that, suburbs used to be the American dream. That was the America right there. That was where you wanted to go for a safe community and schools and families. But according to this, there are stats that show that drug-related deaths is getting very high in suburban areas. It says more younger Americans are dying prematurely, especially those aged 15 to 44. The drug overdose epidemic is the top cause of early death among 25 to 44-year-olds, an age many people in this group traditionally buy their first homes and embark on careers. And that's everywhere, but they're saying the data on drug-related deaths in suburbia is absolutely an interesting and troubling finding, they're saying. Now, what they're saying is that good jobs and the kind of social structure that propped up generations of Americans are fading in many areas of the country. It says workers without college degrees have found themselves especially vulnerable to changes in the labor market. In the 1970s, Americans with only one high school degree could look forward to earning a steady, livable wage with benefits, but those days are long gone. White Americans without college degrees are suffering from deaths of despair. And what it's talking about is many people in white suburbia are depressed because they can't find good jobs. There are money problems all over the place, especially in white communities. But, I mean, it's in the black community. Actually, it's worse in the black community. Now, the reason I brought this up, though, is because they go to, straight away, they say it's trade policies that's causing this. So it's, it's like what Trump says, China, Mexico, Canada taking our jobs. And that's why this is happening. It says the impact of globalization intensified by trade policy that effectively pits American workers against their lower wage peers around the world isn't limited to suburbia. And they're saying that is what's really causing a lot of these problems. They can't find good jobs because of these trade policies. And it's causing them to overdose on drugs and premature death and have more crime and stuff in suburban areas. Now, I think there might be an element of truth there, but I want to say I think that is a very shallow argument, and here's why. What is really killing a lot, if you work in a suburban area like where I am in Orlando, where do a lot of people work? They work in retail, don't they? They work for malls. They work for shopping centers. They work for restaurants. A lot of people work in retail. Well, what's taking the retail jobs? What's killing the malls? What's killing the shopping centers? What's killing all that? Say it on the air, Tom Benson.
Amazon.
Exactly right. It's the internet. It's the internet that's taking those jobs. What's my point on this? To merely blame it on trade policies and think, well, tariffs or something's going to solve that problem is shallow, because what's really taking a lot of these jobs is technology. And we see it every day. We see it. We see malls closing down in our communities. There was a time where factories were closing down, but a lot of those factories closed down in the late 80s, early 90s, and yet we thrived after that. We had a service-based economy, but right now we're losing a lot of that part of the economy, not because of trade policies, but because of technology. It's called creative destruction. It's what happens. It could create more jobs in the long run. I know a lot of people, it might cause more people to live at home. It might make it easier to start your own business. You could start your own online company. It's actually, in a lot of ways, the internet makes it a lot easier to start your own business. You can sell stuff on Amazon, for instance. It's very easy to do. But I wanted to caution people, because this is something we have to understand, because it's coming. And in terms of factory jobs, a lot of those jobs aren't coming back. Even if, China doesn't do them anymore, robots are going to be doing them, okay? Robots are going to be doing a lot of these jobs, and they already are doing a lot of the factory jobs. So that was the first thing I wanted to address, because I think it's a shallow argument to just say, trade policies are taking our job, because they keep talking about economic inequality. Suburbia is too many, the rich have too much money and the middle class doesn't have enough money. Economic inequality makes us all depressed and do drugs. Okay? And like I said, there might be a little bit element of truth to that. But there's also another thing that they're not addressing, which I think is a very big problem. I talked about in this hour, I'm going to talk about the culture. Well, I think a lot of this has to do with the culture. What do I mean by that? We live in a culture now, I read in the first part of the hour, where men are not men. They don't want to take responsibility for their lives. They want their girlfriends that they have lots of sex with before they're married to abort their unborn babies. And what we have now is we've created a culture that degrades men. So you have a lot of depressed men who are living at home. We have a culture that degrades faith. Our pop culture, less and less people go to church, less and less people participate in helping their community, less and less people believe in God and have faith. And that can be incredibly damaging to the culture. The other thing, I go back to broken families. You have families you have high divorce rates out there. And when you have that, that means you have a lot of single moms and single dads. That means you don't have the two incomes in the family like you had for a while, where you have single moms raising their kids. They have to work, so they're not there to raise their kids. You have these broken families. You can't tell me that does not have a negative effect on our culture to the point where we see lots of drugs. When there is a spiritual vacuum out there, and there's a spiritual vacuum, that vacuum wants to be filled by something. It's either going to be filled by real radical beliefs, which is why radical Islam might be, gaining traction in a lot of the world. But it's also going to be filled by things like drugs. And so when we have the breakdown of the culture, and what were the foundations of our culture? It was faith. It was family. It was men being responsible and being leaders. We have degraded those three things, and then we see the downfall of the culture, especially in suburbia, and we're blaming trade policies. Like I said, I think that's a little shallow. And by the way, there's studies that basically show that the breakup of the family is what's hurting the church. That a lot of people that go to church, they do it with families. And now the families are broken up. They don't go to church. They don't get the faith. They don't believe in God. And they're going to go to things like drugs and alcohol to fill that void. And we're seeing the results of that. And I wish this article would address that. It's a money article, so maybe that's why. But I think there's much more to the opioid epidemic, the drug epidemic, than just trade policies. All right, we're going to end the show with some fun. On that high note, we're going to end the show with some fun with things that made Yaffee laffy. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Yes, this is another edition of your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. If you miss any of the show so far, make sure to catch the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. Just search for Michael Yaffee on Facebook. Send me a friend request, or you can like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page, or you can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. So you actually made up a good point in the break, Tom Benson, because we were talking about how the culture is kind of degrading in suburbia, and it's really happening with young people. And a lot of times, it's young people who are dying prematurely from drug epidemics, and we talked about how lack of faith and family is a cause of that. But you brought up the minimum wage, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Well, my comment basically was, there's a saying that the tide raises all boats, and it kind of dawned on me ages ago that one of the reasons that unions support raising the minimum wage of non-union workers to $15 is because if they go up, then union wages will have to go up comparatively.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why, I like that comment, because you were exactly right, is the fact is as well, a lot of young people, unemployment with young people is very high. And it's very hard now for a young person, a teenager, to get started in the workforce and find a job. So if they're not working, what are they doing? Well, a lot of times they're causing trouble. It's a good way to teach them responsibility early is to get them a job.
How old were you at your first job?
17.
I was 12 or 13, delivering newspapers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, doing newspapers.
Well, my sister got a job. My twin sister got a job earlier than I did. I was doing a lot of stuff in my church that I was involved in, so I didn't get one kind of as quickly. I played drums in my church and youth group and stuff. And it was a little bit harder for me to find a job earlier. It took me a little while. I ended up getting a job at Checkers, working fast food. Taught me a lot about the world.
Sure.
But basically, my mom told me, you won't get a license until you get a job. I won't let you get a license until you get a job because you're going to pay for the insurance.
That's right.
And I think that's fine. I understand that. But you have a lot of young people, and a lot of reasons they can't find jobs is because of the minimum wage. The easiest way to legislate young people out of the workforce is keep raising the minimum wage.
Yeah.
So they're legislating older people, but the young people are going to be affected first. There's jobs that don't even exist anymore that probably would exist if it weren't for the minimum wage. Okay, time to have some fun with things that made Yaffee laffy. Uh-oh. Do we get the...
Hey, it's been a while since I've done this, so I'm not used to getting the sound effects here going. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have warned you ahead of time. Okay. This is... they're expecting the sound effects.
Do it again. Do it again.
Okay. I'll start over. Things that made Yaffee laffy. So I actually found this from redalertpolitics.com, and I had no idea about this, but there was a tweet out by Rob Schneider, the actor Rob Schneider. Apparently he's a big conservative. I did not know that. I did not keep track of Rob Schneider's politics. Maybe that's why he's not in many movies anymore.
I've seen this. This is good.
You did see this? So he tweets this out. which is fantastic. He says, 2010, Dems lost the House. 2012, Dems lost the Senate. 2016, Dems lost the White House. 2017, Dems lost ability to reason. It's not Russia, it's you. I thought that was fantastic because they're blaming losing the election on Russia. But he makes a point. You lost the House in 2010, in 2012, 2016, and in the White House, and you're blaming it on Russia. And he goes, 2017, the Dems lost the ability to reason. That's good. That's good stuff. Apparently, he's got a bunch of other tweets. I was kind of looking through his Twitter and seeing if he had any other stuff. Apparently, he's tweeted some stuff before. That's pretty conservative stuff. So good stuff out there. He tweeted some stuff against the EPA and how they apparently helped Monsanto or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about that, but it's very interesting. Okay, another thing that made me laughy, or another one that might actually make me cry. I found this from the Daily Wire. It says, gay interracial Santas are coming to town in new children's book. Are you looking forward to that?
Wait, I can't follow this. Gay interracial Santa Clauses.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
So not only is there more than one Santa, but they're interracial and gay. It says a new picture book called Santa's Husband.
Oh, jeez.
Will feature a gay Santa Claus in an interracial relationship. The book, which is published by Harper's Design, will hit stores on October 10th and is apparently meant for all ages. Anyone out there going to get this for their kids?
Sure.
Rush out?
Yeah.
Have to explain why there's two Santas and they're gay. According to a description of the book, Santa's Husband tells the story of a black Santa Claus and his white husband who both live in the North Pole. Santa's spouse frequently fills in for his husband at malls. If the black Santa is the one who has to fill in at the malls, I feel like that's a little racist. I'm just saying. A staff writer for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is said to have written the children's book as a parody. Okay, good. It's not for real. Back in December, he tweeted telling his children Santa was black. If they see a white one, we'll say that's his husband. Oh, jeez. This is just... They have a picture here, by the way, like a drawing of both Santas longingly looking at each other in the eyes. It's just...
Well, it is cold and long, dark nights up there in the North Pole.
Oh, jeez. Stop it, Tom Benson. Stop it. So, yeah, gay interracial Santas coming to a bookstore near you. So those were things that made Yaffee laughy. Okay, so there's actually a bunch of stuff that I did not have time to get into in the show that we'll have to get into in the next show, including a former Obama staffer basically came out and admitted that Obama's responsible for all the leaks. Basically admitted that, said, yeah, well, that's where all the leaks are coming from. The Obama administration put out all this info. I'm like, wait, what? But not only that, but I'm really confused about this whole Nunes thing because they're saying the White House tipped him off with the intelligence, but then he went with the intelligence to Trump. So the White House gave it to Nunes, who gave it to Trump? I don't understand. Like, I'm really confused by that. So as White House staffers, are they not talking to Trump? Is this something not... that whole intelligence thing, they just need to give up this whole stupid Russia investigation because it's just getting ridiculously dumb. All right, this has been another edition of Beyond Reason Radio. Make sure to send me a friend request on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. Check the podcast of the show anywhere podcasts are available. And, well, I'll catch you guys next time.